Okay, so what I'm just going to be doing is taking you through today's lesson. Today you're going to be creating a visualization diagram for the product that you planned in last week's lesson. So last week's lesson you created a mind map where you planned out, okay, what the client was going to do. So you had a look at the client brief, you had to think about who the target audience is you're creating your product for, and then you had an idea of coming up with some design ideas that you're going to include in the product that you're going to design. You also should have created a mood board. Now you use the mood board to generate what the product's appearance is going to be like. So you thought about the layout, so you should have hopefully looked at different examples of the product you're going to create. You should have hopefully looked at different color schemes that meet the scenario of the product that you're going to create and the scenario that you've chosen. Okay, and you should have also looked at different font styles and come up with a font style that you think's best going to be, or best going to attract the target audience that you're designing your product for. Okay, so before we start, what you must do first of all is revisit the products that you created in last week's lesson. So before you do anything, reread the client brief. Now, I've placed the client brief in the assignment for this week. So just have a quick read through and make sure it makes sense and you know exactly what the client is asking you to design. Today you're going to be designing your product, so it is important that you include all of the features that the client's requested, and you won't know what features the client wants you to include if you don't read the client brief. You should also have a look at your mind map. Okay, what design ideas did you list in it? You should also have a look at your mood board. What layout and appearance ideas did you find? Okay, and if you got onto the extension task last week, you might have developed a house style and you might have developed a logo that you're going to include in your work this week. Don't worry if you've not done that though, but you do need to look at your mind map, your mood board and the client brief. Okay, so what we're going on to do today is we're going to be creating a visualization diagram. Now, a visualization diagram is a draft plan of a product, okay, that is normally created on paper. It can then be shown to the client, okay, who's paying you. Remember, if you're doing this as a job, you're being paid by the client, so they can see what the product's going to look like when it's created. You can then, okay, after the client's had a look at it and agreed that he likes what you're doing and agrees to the design, you can then take that design and you can either use it yourself or you can give it to the person who's going to be creating it, the designer, so they know exactly what they're creating when they're creating the product that you're asking them to create. Okay, so I've got a few examples of visualization diagrams here. Okay, and you can see it's made up by having a sketch of the product. Okay, and then as well as the product itself, you could have logos and images and drawings included. Okay, you might have text included on your sketch. You might have the colors that you're going to use. Okay, you should have the dimensions, so how big is the product going to be, and the annotations around the edge are used to justify your design choices. Okay, so you're going to have a go at designing the product, okay, that you've been asked to create by the client. So you're going to need to have a sheet of paper. You're not going to be able to do today's task on the computer, so you are going to need to do it on paper and you are going to need to hand draw it. Okay, now I recommend giving it a title, visualization diagram. Okay, your first task is to sketch out your product. Okay, now try to draw your product as clearly as you can. Now I am aware that not everybody is an amazing artist. Don't worry if that's the case, we'll be able to annotate your drawing to make it clear. But do try, because it's a piece of work that you are going to submit for marking, please try to do it to the best of your ability. Once you've got your drawing sketched out and it's clear, you're then going to label, annotate all of the design points on your design. The more detailed the annotations are, the better your design will be. Okay, if there's time, you can, or you may, colour in your design. But just remember, colours aren't essential The annotations are more important. So prioritize the sketch and the annotations before colouring in your product. Okay, now you will need to take a photograph of your product when it's complete so you can upload it to Microsoft Teams. Okay, now in this box here, I've given you some points to consider when you create your visualization diagram. Now the content, it is asking for a visualization of the product that you are planning. Think about your planning task. What would you need to include on the product? Okay, what's the client asked you to include? Titles. Okay, what information are you being asked to include? Then you need to think about the layout. Now, as part of your mood board last lesson, you should have had a look at some existing examples of your product. So you should have an idea when people have created these products in the past, where do they put the text? Where do they put the pictures? How do they spread out the content on the page? So what items would you typically find on the product that you're designing? So for example, titles, images, logos, text, what else? How will you organize the content? Have you had a look at how existing products are laid out? The use of white space. You don't want to have everything bunched up. You've got an A4 sheet, okay, to create your product onto, okay. How are you going to spread out the content on the page? Now, fitness for purpose. Remember, you will use this product to create your actual product, the product you're going to create in Photo P. Does it have enough information or detail to create the product? Would you be able to give your design to another designer, and would they be able to create? Now I've put poster there, it should say product, okay? Annotations. Not everyone is an amazing artist. This is why annotations are so important. Make sure that you clearly label all of your design features, the fonts, the colors, the images, etc. Now I have put up here an example. Obviously it's not an example of the product that you're creating, but you can see, okay, if you could create something that looked like this would be fantastic. And just remember, it's going to be an A4 document. So the document you're creating is going to be A4. And you might want to think, because this is going to be a printed document, you're creating a printed document, you're going to want to think about using a higher resolution. Now the high resolution we will be using will be 300 dots per inch. So you might want to put on your design, on your visualization diagram, that you're going to set the resolution to be 300 dots per inch and the size is going to be A4. Okay, hope you found that a useful video. If you have got any questions, please ask your teacher in the chat window. See you next time. Goodbye.